Hello. I love getting thoroughly immersed in a historical novel, so the past comes vividly alive. It's like I can sense the entire world around me from this historical period. But then there is also an immense satisfaction in closing the covers of the book and realizing I'm not actually there, because I'm often reminded when reading historical novels how difficult things were for so many people in different periods from history. I'm sometimes amazed that anybody survived, considering all of the obstacles that the human race has gone through. And I was certainly reminded of that when reading this novel, The Adversary by Michael Crummey. And I'd never heard of this book before until looking at the shortlist for the Dublin Literary Award recently. And this is listed for that. And the winner is going to be announced this week. So it'll be really exciting to see if this wins. And I'm going to be going to the ceremony. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I was so thrilled to be introduced to this author who I hadn't heard of before because his powers of description and his sense of drama and characterization, did really bring this period of history so alive for me. And so it's set in the early 1800s. It's never exactly specified when, but there is a reference at one point to an old man who still remembers the 7 Years' War. So I assume it's around the beginning of 1800, and it's set in Newfoundland. And of course, that is far north geographically in the globe. And so as you would expect in this period of time, yes, things were very hard going for people living in this cove and subsisting off from fishery primarily, and relying on so much trade with the rest of the world, because there were so many things that people couldn't, natural resources that weren't available to people in this region. And yes, there was incredibly bad weather, and there would be horrific storms at some point which would take out a lot of ships and disrupt so much of their industry and their livelihood. But then because it was so far north, there was also the cove would become locked in ice. And of course, this was very unpredictable when this would happen or how long the ice would be there for. There was also pestilence and plagues, and people would get horribly sick, and it would take out large swaths of the population. And of course, there wasn't very much medicine available, although there's a fascinating character of a local woman who's a kind of medicine woman, and she's a really fascinating character. And there are also marauders or pirates who's periodically land in the cove and just steal lots of their few precious resources and threaten the lives of the local population. So yes, there is a lot to overcome and a lot to survive through in this period of time and history. And part of the drama of this novel is not knowing who is going to survive, because there are some characters that I thought were going to be around for the entire story that do not make it very far. And I'm not going to give any spoilers to this, but this, as you would expect from such a time and place when things were so difficult for so many people. And then to top it off of all of these challenges that the people of this area were going through, there is a prominent brother and sister who are rivals, and they control a lot of the mercantile business in the area and are kind of the wealthiest and most powerful individuals. And because they have such a controlling stake in the local area, that people's lives are affected by their rivalry and the things that they do to almost like sabotage their own businesses, and this felt very. This was very believable for me because actually I knew of a situation like this in the town that I was growing up, where there was an amusement park and also a water park side by side with each other, which had been owned by the same person, but then that person's descendants, the water park and the theme park were kind of split amongst them, and they were rivals, and I think they almost like combusted the entire business because they had so much bickery going back and forth, and we often find this in commerce and business, especially I think like local businesses, that sometimes those businesses might flounder, not so much because of the actual workforce, but because of the management and the pettiness of decisions and rivalries that go on like this, especially within families. And it is an almighty battle between these characters. There's Abe, who is the inheritor of the primary bulk of the business, and he is just a despicable person. He is completely self-involved and acts so despicably to so many people, really tyrannical in how he runs things, and he's really only interested in maintaining his power and humiliating other people, and he kills and rapes, and he's just an absolutely despicable person. But then there is also his sister, the widow Keynes, and she is very intelligent and has a very good sense of business. So she should be the natural inheritor of this business, but sexism, she does not, and is not able to run the family business, and so works to have her own controlling stake within the mercantile businesses in the local area, and it becomes this almighty rivalry. And yes, as you might have guessed from the names of Abe and the widow Keynes, that this is a kind of reforming of the Abel and Cain's story from the Bible, but it's kind of updated and brought into this modern era the modern era for the time of the early 1800s. And from listening to interviews with the author, he describes how the character of Abe was based off from a real figure of history from this period, and who did a lot of these same despicable things. And so yes, we follow the drama and rivalry. Primarily, that's what the story focuses on, but there are also so many fascinating peripheral characters, and it's so fascinating how it builds up the complexity and story of their rivalry over the course of the book, and then gives details of characters, some that are newly arrived within the community, and some that have been there for a very long time, and people who have how people are trying to work their way amongst these two powerful figures to either ingratiate themselves to a particular one, and or to try to maintain some neutrality, which is actually kind of impossible when you have a immense power struggle like this. And so people are kind of forced to choose sides, and then that puts them in the bad books of the other sibling that they aren't following, and so it just creates so much conflict and chaos, and how the author shows that this is, can kind of be a microcosm of the larger society, and things which occur when there are powerful political leaders who are tyrannical in their nature, and really only self-interested, and certainly so this could be a applied to the present and have a lot of resonance for our present times, as well as being a really evocative depiction of the past. And there were so many elements of this book that I appreciated in the characterization of creating really complex characters, and the way that he brings them alive so much through the dialogue and language in this book, because even though there's a lot of violence and terrible things that occur in this story, there's also quite a lot of humor, and I think the humor comes out a lot through the dialogue and the manner of speech of the people involved, because there are so many insults that are used and references to sex and sexual anatomy, but that are in terms which are very different from what we're accustomed to, and which are very creative and funny. And these are based on real historical accounts and language that was used at the time, and sort of terms that were used, and so that frequently tickled me while I was reading the story, and kind of counterbalanced with the brutality of their circumstances. And even though there are a lot of characters in this that are self-interested in and kind of conniving in their manner, there are also some characters that are really beautifully rendered, and caring people that go out of their way to try to live a good life amidst these incredibly difficult circumstances, and especially amidst the rivalry of these two powerful siblings. And something I really appreciated too was there's a character that a young man who develops tender feelings for another young man, but isn't really able to express that because of the time period, but finds a way to still have him in his life. And it's just a small thing in the story, but I really appreciate how this kind of experience is inserted into historical novels like this, because obviously there must have been gay people, so many gay people in the past whose stories weren't recorded because they felt like they couldn't openly express their feelings, or it was too dangerous to express them, or it was too dangerous to record it, or it was actively taken out of historical accounts or left out of historical accounts. And so, I really appreciated how there was that element of the story as well. But overall, I was so gripped by this story and wanted to know what was going to happen next. So there's the main drama between the siblings, but there are also lots of sub-stories and characters that are introduced and following them. And with each of the characters and sub-stories, I was equally as invested in those and gripped by them, and so I think that's kind of a tribute to the power of Michael Crummey's writing, and I was just so impressed and admiring of it, and it did his writing does remind me a bit of Joyce Carol Oates's work, and of course she's my favorite author, so that was positive for me. It also reminded me a bit of the novel The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton, in having so many characters and so much drama going on that I was compelled all the way throughout, although this is a much shorter book. And it is a kind of, I hadn't realized when I first started reading it, but it is a kind of sequel that he wrote a previous novel called The Innocents, which it's not exactly a sequel, because the content of the stories and not many of the characters overlap between the two books, but they are set roughly in the same area at the same period of time. And there's a little reference in this book to the primary characters in that earlier novel, but it doesn't, having not read that first book, I don't feel like, or at least the time of reading this, I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. But I'm really keen to go back and read The Innocents now that I've read this first book for me by this author, because I think he is so talented, and the environment and life at this time, he evokes it in such a rich and really textured way that I did feel like I was absolutely there. So this was a wonderful reading experience. I just read this with my online book club recently. We've been having lots of great discussion about it, and he's such a fascinating author to listen to. I've been listening to a number of interviews with him recently as well. And it'll be really exciting to see if this wins the Dublin Literary Award this week. And I'm so glad that the prize has introduced me to this author that I hadn't come across before. So if you have read this book or anything else by this author, I would love to hear about that in the comments below, and what you think about it, or if you're interested in reading it now, or if you want to let me know about any other great historical fiction you've read that really vividly depicts the difficult and trying times that people went through in the past, and then made you grateful that you were in the present with all of the soft furnishings that we have in our present time. And but I hope you're doing well and reading good things, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye bye.